What is up guys, Andy Forrest, FOD Runner here. Welcome back to another video, and today we're diving into my mind and we're going to be going through kilometer by kilometer how I was feeling, what I was thinking and what my race plan was as we go through the Battersea 10k. So shout out to the comment on the previous video of my Battersea 10k race vlog. Someone said if you've got the time it'd be great to hear if you could do some kind of commentary style video on your race, break it down kilometer by kilometer, that sort of thing. I appreciate that, and it was actually something I was thinking about. So I thought today would be a great time for me to break the footage down, go through with you exactly what I was thinking at certain points in the race, how I even approached the race, and basically talk you through my movements, my motions and everything that went through that whole 10 kilometers. And for that, I'm going to need to put my glasses on and we're going to move over to here to the computer where we're going to sit down and go through it. Now we'll talk about the start very shortly, but I've just got all the files up, loaded on the screen to go through the whole race. A lot of it's unedited, no music over the top. You'll be able to hear everything nice and raw, and I'll talk you through what is going on basically from the start.
If I can ask you all to come up to this line here, we've moved it forwards today just a little bit, just up to the corner here.
Now, what I want to say at this point when we get to the start line is, I'll pause it there. I've been told that this race, it was a manual race, so there's no chip timing mats or anything, so it was like gun time counts, and I'd heard that it can be a little bit argy-bargy on the start line, just people just trying to not lose seconds at the start. I didn't experience that in this race at all. Obviously people went out when he said go, but overall I've got to say it was a very sort of calmish start, so that was good. But in my mind, what was going through it right then and there was I've come to London to either try and PB or get as close as possible. Now I shared my overall thoughts on fitness levels and everything in the previous race videos. If you haven't checked that out, please do. I basically said I think I'm in 33:10 to 33:20 shape, but I feel like if I'm in the right pack I could squeak under 30. And that was in my mind. I wasn't going to be conservative here. I've spent all year racing relatively calm start, strong finish, and I love that way of racing, but sometimes you just want to put yourself out there, and this was one of those days where I really wanted to put myself out there. So I'll fast forward to the start and we'll go from there. Alright, so the gun is about to go off. Here we go, straight away into the melee. As I say, quite a calm start, no argy-bargy, and all I was thinking about at that point was, right, I don't want to do the work in the first loop or so. I want to find a group that fits, and you can see straight away from this footage, 3 guys at the front, Nick Bester, chap in the white vest, chap in the burgundy vest. There is a chap on the right hand side, but he doesn't hang there too long. You can see a second pack already forming in the form of the chap in the red vest and the chap with the light blue and dark blue vest and the white vest in front, and there's a chap to my right as well. I knew at that point that those guys were running roughly around where I was trying to run, so all I was focusing on was trying to get into the back of them. At that point you can see we're kind of coming through the 1k marker-ish, there or thereabouts, and there's a clear gap. Those 3 runners that I mentioned straight away have zoomed off. That includes Nick, and then as I said, the group that I wanted to be in has formed, and it's really good. So I'm letting the 2 or 3 runners at the front do some of the work. I knew that I would be happy to take some of the load, but I didn't want to go out there and hit my red line straight away, and these guys were running pretty much bang on where I wanted to be.
Go Andy!
Now at this stage it was about 1.5k in. Effort levels were really good, really controlled. We were coming up to the first turn off the bottom straight, so we were about to curve back onto the not the gravelly bit at all, but the bit that's not the lovely smooth tarmac. Come around the corner, effort levels were really good. I checked my watch briefly for pace and it was like 33 low pace, so I thought, okay, this feels really good and controlled. Hold it, let's see where this goes.
Really good group, Andy, keep going.
Okay, so this is when it started to get interesting. We've done 1 loop, and as you can see straight away there are 2 runners here that broke away from our pack, the chap in the red and the chap in the double blue vest. And I knew at this point that I either had to sit or go with them. There was no other option, and because I travelled all that way I just thought I'm going to go with it. So you can see now I put a surge in round that bend just to catch up and latch onto the back of them. My watch at this point was showing I think 5:18 per mile, which I knew I needed to run 5:14:15. I work in miles, sorry, not kilometres. So I knew that I was way off 32 time at this point, but I knew that if I could stick with them, I'd be in with a good chance of going as low 33 as possible.
Go Andy!
That But then just as quickly as I latched onto the pack, they started breaking away already. So we kind of came through the 4K mark, and you can see they're putting a bit of daylight in front of me anyway. I was putting a bit of daylight in front of the person behind, but they were breaking me in. And at that point I knew I couldn't go with them. You can see from this footage here, this is a better angle. There's a good gap there forming between those two and me, and then a good gap
this is a really good run.
and the next runner behind. And just past this section here, as we go into the next bit of footage, this is when we crossed the 5K mark. It was just a bit before that actually, and the chap shouted out 16:43 I think, which in my head I was trying to do the mental maths and going, right, that's a 33:26. So actually I'm not low 33s now, I'm getting to the point where it's a mid 33 run. So I was trying not to panic too much, but I was trying to maintain and conserve effort. It all felt okay at the time, but I knew I couldn't go any quicker.
Sixth place now, Andy, look, doing really well.
So I was on the back side of the loop here, coming round about another 1K to go before we come into the final loop, and I was in no man's land at this point. So you can see here we're just going through what looks like a very lonely part. Lots of runners out there, but some of these not in the race. And yeah, I was just basically now at this point trying to play mind games with myself. So I hadn't really gotten to a position where I felt like I was working too hard. I felt like this effort, I was trying to dial in and think to myself, you've gone past 6K, you feel all right, you can do this for another 4K. In miles, nearly getting to the point where it was like 2 miles left, like a 2 mile repeat left, and that's all I was thinking. I'm very comfortable with doing 2 mile reps. You can see on that footage there, just going through the park, coming round onto the final loop, and this is the point where we hit the final loop. And all I'm thinking at this point is, right, you've got one more loop to go, you feel all right, like you're on your limit, you're definitely not going to slow down, but fingers crossed you won't get caught. And that's all I was thinking, just don't get caught at this point. You kind of went with that pack, you committed, they broke away from you again. Just now the game is don't get caught and try and see, which I couldn't really, to keep the people in sight in front of you.
Last lap, Andy, dig in now, last lap, less than a lap to go.
Right, so just starting the final laps, we've gone past that tent and now we're on that back straight, and I'm kind of looking up ahead going, well, I think I can see the runners ahead of me in the distance, but they're absolutely gone now. Effort levels again feel really hard but controlled. I knew I would be all right not to slow down, but what I did notice at this point is my watch had showed 5:18 per mile throughout the race, and at this point it flickered to 5:19. I looked down and thought, oh, you're slowing, and I thought that was really weird because I thought I was obviously putting in the same effort. You can see here again, just absolutely in no man's land. I've just gone past a couple of lap runners, so I'm just coming into the final section here, and as I round the corner I can see the tent ahead of me, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't want it to finish on 5:19 per mile, I want it to be 5:18. So I put the hammer down. I had a little bit left in the tank at this point, just the tiniest bit, and I thought, just be strong, hold yourself upright, drive your arms well, and just finish. And it was damage limitation at this point. I knew that I wasn't anywhere near 32:50 something, and I knew it was very much going to be around 33:30. So I just pushed and pushed and pushed, and then this gazebo came at the end and nearly took my head off. They need to raise that next time because I had to duck under that. But overall, yeah, I finished relatively happy. It was a strong effort, and I think overall it was just one of those things where when I lost touch with everybody in the second loop, it was just kind of like, just, yeah, finish and do your best.
Hey,
How was it? Second fastest 10K, 33. 32. Happy with that. That was tough.
33:32. Were you on track for sub 33?
Yeah, the first pack in the first lap was going that pace. It was great, and then two people on that pack pushed on, and it left us in the dust. So I tried to bridge the gap. I left the pack behind, couldn't quite get them, so I was in no man's land. So yeah, we went for it. We gave it a go. Happy with that.
Amazing. I can see you gave it a good go. Look at your cards over there.
Yeah. Woo. Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Well done, buddy.
Hey, cheers, mate. Well done.
Callum, nice to meet you.
So there we go, there we have it. Those are my thoughts going round Battersea Park in that 10K. It was a funny old race, but I've raced like that loads of times. And actually, I'm quite used to sort of races that get to the point where it feels like a time trial. Usually it happens a lot earlier. A lot of local races around here, the depth isn't quite as, I guess, great at the top end of the spectrum. So I came here hoping, checking the previous results from the August one, and I'm pretty sure there was about like 15 or 20 sort of sub 33-minute 10K runners, so I was really quite excited. It transpires that on this occasion there was 5, so yeah, I was a little bit disappointed, but I guess that obviously you can't expect that depth of field to turn up to every single one, because I gather that these guys guys, Sri Chimnoy, who organise a ton of amazing events, and I've only heard positive things. And from a personal experience, I can say it was a really positive race. It was great. I would recommend them, and I'd recommend that type of race. If you love that just kind of raw, walk up to the line, go, finish, bang, job done, PB or no PB. Yeah, I'd highly recommend it. But yeah, the depth wasn't quite there from previous races, and I think what also kind of impacted it was the weather had been crap, to be honest, all week, and it was the first sunny day. Everybody was out there, and it just got a little bit busy in the second half of the race. What I will say, and what I've learned over the years, just to kind of leave you, I guess, with a little nugget of information, if you want to call it that. Over the years, I've kind of got to the point, I work in miles, so I've got to the point in 10k where I go, if you get to 4 miles, and what would usually happen is I would sort of gas out and then I'd slow from 4 to 6 miles. So I guess in K, was that like 6k or something, 6.5. If I could get to there, that's kind of used to be what my tactic was. I've now managed to fathom out, like, I can get through a 10k splitting a relatively even effort. There was a very small fade in this one, about 6 seconds, but overall, like, it was a pretty constant effort. And I have got myself to that point where I can judge that based on how I'm feeling at the time. And I had to make a mental switch halfway through that race. When that pack went from me around that 4k mark, I broke with the 2 runners, but then they broke me again. It then went from a time-based race to a tactical race. And I think if you can switch your mindset partway through, that stops you becoming dejected. I've often got to a point where, like, if time isn't going the way I want to and I put pressure on myself, I would kind of get a bit frustrated, angry, and then the race would just get even worse. So having that different mindset to switch into, I guess I went to a tactical one, which was basically don't get past. This is now a race where you've put yourself on your limit. You know that if you finish at this effort level, this will be a blooming good result. Whatever the time is, don't get past, and then you start to play a different game with yourself and you start to have a different challenge. And so being able to flip that switch mid-run was really, really useful for me, and I've developed that, I think, over the last year or two. I had it at Magor 10k earlier this year when it was super hot. Time was nowhere near, I was going for a sub 33 there, around 34.15, way too hot or something like that. But it became a position-based race, and I came third in the end behind 2 great runners. Was never going to get second or first, but I tried to be best of the rest, and that's all I tried to be here, was just best of the group that I was in or was in. The 2 went away, but I was like, the other people that stayed behind me, I need them to stay there. And that was just kind of a good positive boost when I crossed the line. And yeah, just overall felt really good. So I hope that gives you an insight into how I felt through the race, what my mindset then was through the race, just instantly clicking, switching gears halfway through, and then yeah, saving a bit in the tank for the end for a decent strong finish. Really happy with it, and yeah, overall from Sri Chimnoy perspective, I'd recommend them for a race. I would like to get back to Battersea Park at some point to give another race another go. I do feel like it was one of those days when everybody was out there. I'd love to see what it's like a bit quieter. So yeah, it'd be great to try that again. But yeah, appreciate you guys sticking around to the end of the video. Really, really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed this one. A little bit different, and thanks again to the person that commented for this recommendation. I thought it was a great idea. I really did think about doing this first of all, but that initial video I wanted to kind of tell a story from 24 hours before to post race, so it didn't quite fit what I was trying to do there, but hopefully today kind of ticks that box, and yeah, I hope you all enjoyed it. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you on the next one. Until then.